Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. Today I'd like to talk to you about mistakes beginners make when learning how to play the piano. And this is going to apply equally whether you're trying to learn it on your own or with a teacher, although hopefully a good teacher will correct many of these problems. Uh, I'm going to do a lot of talking, not a lot of playing in this video. So you just might as well sit back and relax and enjoy yourself, and hopefully I'll give you a few tips to help you improve your own playing and practice. I actually have, this video is titled 7 Mistakes Beginners Make, and I actually have I sat down and listed about 14 of them. So I'm going to break this up into a video today and then a video in a couple of weeks that will cover the other 7, just so this video doesn't become overwhelmingly long. So let me just go through the things I've written down on my list. And the first thing I have written down here is positioning. So it's really very important to make sure that you're seated correctly and that you're positioned correctly in relation to the keyboard itself. And it can be a piano or an electric piano or a synthesizer, it doesn't really matter. So a couple of points. First of all, your arms should be parallel to the floor. So don't sit with your arms tilted high up or high down. That's probably going to lead to bad posture. You should be seated upright, don't slouch. It's bad for your back, and it also prevents you from really exerting the full range of motion that your arms can afford. So if you're slouch, it's harder for you to, let's say, extract really loud dynamics from your playing. For example, when you see a pianist sitting at the piano, really hammering these chords, you'll often see them actually hammering them. The motion itself comes from the full range of motion starts at the shoulders, really. So they're really putting their entire arm into playing the notes. And you cannot do this if you're slouching. And plus, you don't want to wake up 8 years down the road with a crooked back. That's all. The third part of positioning has to do with the fingers, and they have to be slightly arched when when playing the keys. So some people play with their fingers flat, which I think makes it difficult to finger certain passages. And some people really arch their fingers, which again makes it very difficult to finger certain passages and chords. So you should have a certain amount of arch to it, and you can see it in the video I'm showing you here. And those are the really 3 main points having to do with positioning. The second mistake a lot of beginners make is practicing too fast. And the problem with practicing fast is that you're going to make mistakes. And when you practice them, and even when you practice them over time, the mistakes are going to be baked into your playing. You're really going to be learning not just the piece, but the piece plus your mistakes. So, if you're slurring notes, if your dynamics isn't good, if you're pretty much anything, it's going to get baked into the piece itself, whatever it is you're trying to learn. So you have to start practicing slowly. How slowly? Well, play it slow enough so that you don't make any mistakes. And then just take it down even, an extra notch, just to be extra sure. Whatever it is that you're practicing, really, if it's an entire piece or if you're just breaking down a difficult passage, like you're trying to arpeggiate a chord. So if you can't really have even dynamics when doing it, and you might have like a slurred, don't try to speed up, play it very slowly. so that you can actually hear each note clearly. The third mistake I see a lot of beginners make when trying to learn, well, actually any instrument, is not playing with a metronome. Now, this day and age, I mean, metronomes are really cheap. You can go and buy one for like $10, and that's actually a pretty good idea because, you know, you'll have it next to you and you can turn it on. If you don't want to buy one, you can always download an app to your phone. You know, pretty much everyone has a smartphone these days, or most people. You know, I just downloaded something here to my phone, and I can show you. It doesn't really matter which one; they all do the same thing. Here it is. You know, you can see it here in the camera, and any metronome will do. All you have to be able to do is turn it on and off, and set the BPM, the beats per minute. And if you select a low number, it's going to click slowly. And if you increase the BPM, it's going to get faster, of course. And there are two reasons for practicing with a metronome. And the first is to help yourself develop a feel for the timing and making sure that you're playing evenly as well. You know, going back to that arpeggiation pattern that we chose, let's take 66 and let's play 16th notes. Or actually, let's play triplets. So it might, you know, sound something like this. So these are 16th note triplets. It doesn't really matter. You can play it half the speed, double the speed, whatever. This just makes sure that you're on time and that you're not speeding up in certain parts of the part or of the piece you're trying to learn and slowing down in others. You have to consistently be able to perform your piece at the same tempo regardless of the point in the piece. The other reason for using a metronome is that it prevents you from lying to yourself. And every person trying, you know, to master something that is difficult, let's say playing a piano, will lie to him or herself in some way. You know, it's unavoidable. We want to believe that we're doing better than we're actually doing. You know, you're going to the gym and you lift a dumbbell for 4 weeks, and then you hop on the scale, or you feel like you've lost a lot of weight, but then you hop on the scale and you see that you only lost a kilo, let's say. So a metronome really plays the part of a scale. It gives you a quantitative measure of your point, of your progress. Because you can say, okay, I'm going to learn this, you know, I'm going to strive to play this arpeggiation at a BPM of 60. So let's say it's something even simpler. And then you can say, okay, I've done 60. Can I do 65? That's interesting. And then you can keep going up until at some point, you know, I mean, it's going to break at some point, right? I mean, well, at some point it gets silly, but this is fairly easy. More difficult pieces are going to be, of course, more difficult to perform. And, you know, you start, like I said, with the slowest BPM you feel comfortable with. You take it down a notch. So let's say you feel comfortable at 60. You're going to practice at 55, and you're going to slowly increase 55 to 56 to 57 to 58. And then reach your comfort zone, the edge of it, 60 BPM. And then you're going to start going up. And you're going to find out that when you get to 64 or 65, you're going to start making mistakes. So you're going to dial it back and maybe try staying at 60. And that's going to be your practice for today. And the next day, you're going to start at maybe 56 and try to go up And then maybe you'll find out that you can go up to 62, and the next day to 63, and then maybe to 66, and then maybe to 68. And you're going to build up these numbers. And this will give you a quantitative indication of where you're at the practice stage. So you can do something at 70 BPM, you really want to do it at 120 BPM, so you know you have to slowly build up these numbers. Okay, now let's talk about, or let's move on and talk about not really recording or performing. So one of the most useful things in, when you're studying piano is actually these are two slightly separate things. The first is to record yourself and listen back to the recordings. And don't have to do it every time you practice, but let's say once a week or once every 2 weeks, you're practicing your piece, you sit down and you record yourself. And then you store it away. You don't have to listen to it the same day. Then 2 weeks later, you record yourself again. And then, every 2 weeks, and you make a small file and you put it on your computer. And then every week you can have a listen to, if you're brave enough, listen to that week's performance, but also compare it to your performance from 2 weeks ago and from maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. And this will do two things. First of all, it will let you identify the parts that are improving, and that's really good because it motivates you. You actually see, because when you're practicing piano, the increases to your ability on a daily basis can be really small. But if you measure them in intervals of a week or 2 weeks or a month, then you'll actually see the changes. And again, this goes back to the gym analogy. You don't lose a kilo every day, but you might lose a kilo every 2 weeks or every week or whatever. And when you take your pictures of yourself, you can see this weight loss over time, and this really motivates you. It really gives you a tangible, feeling that you're progressing. The other sort of thing that is similar to recording has to do with performing. And performing means just playing your pieces to someone. And it's, I could say, it can be a friend, it can be your spouse, it can be your family, it could be, if you're comfortable or confident, you can go out to the street and just play guitar in the street. Or piano, you can take maybe a keyboard with some amplification. And this really forces you to, again, get feedback from the environment. And I highly suggest that when you're practicing stuff, you do this with people that really have your best interest in mind. So, you could play for your parents or spouse or kids or whatever. Not every time, maybe once every couple of months. And so they can hear you play the piece that you're learning. And they'll give you both, a little bit of feedback, but also some positive feedback. And in addition, this will force you to really sort of take it more seriously, right? That you tend to take things that other people will see way more seriously than if you just practice yourself. Now, if you're very shy, you don't have to do this, but I still really recommend doing this. It's just a good kind of way to motivate yourself to perform. And this will, to practice, and this will lead to, I think, more measurable gains when practicing piano. Now for a tip that has to do with, I think, shy people. Now, shy people, if you have an acoustic piano, you might not want to practice because you don't want people to hear your mistakes, or you don't want to disturb the neighbors or your family, which is understandable. This is why I think one of the, especially for shy people, or for people who come home late at night and want to practice and are concerned about disturbing the neighbors, I really think that electric or digital pianos are an excellent solution. You can practice with headphones, and that way, even if you're shy, only you hear your mistakes, If you buy a relatively decent quality digital piano, you're very likely going to have a very similar experience to playing an acoustic piano. Maybe not exactly the same, but you're different. Let's put it this way. It's definitely better to practice. If this will make you practice significantly more, it's worth the the difference from playing on an acoustic piano. That's the point. Now, another mistake I see beginners make a lot, and actually this is not a mistake just beginners make, but everyone sins this way once in a while, which is not really practicing, just playing. And the difference between practicing and playing is really how much you challenge yourself. You can sit down, and let's say you're a intermediate, fairly good piano player, and you can say, I'm going to play a song that I like today. I like some. Some song you like, or maybe you feel comfortable playing chords, so you play that, or whatever. But the point is that if you feel comfortable playing that, it means that you're not practicing. It's great to have fun, and you should put time aside to just play and enjoy your playing. But practicing means doing something that is difficult for you. So, you can try maybe, just make sure that you have parts in your playing that are not negligible in terms of time, that you set aside time for practicing, for playing pieces or exercises or etudes or whatever it is that challenge you. And again, when you practice them, start slowly, do it with a metronome, and don't forget to record yourself. The last mistake I'll talk about today is one that I guess pervades our society, and I'm to blame for it as well, which is expecting instant gratification. You can say, I'm going to start learning piano, and I really want to play this Chopin piece. And you're going to play for 3 months and then just give up because you're frustrated because you can't play that Chopin piece. But really, it's not a realistic expectation. So it's, concert pianists practice 6, 7, 8 hours a day for years on end. And we're talking about the cream of the crop, the most talented players out there. And it takes them years to, let's say, reach a level where they can play Chopin. And not just years, but also many, many hours each day. So it's going to take time. Whatever it is you want to learn, it's going to take time, especially if you do it right. If you start slowly and you build up over time. And it's important not to get discouraged. It's important to, let's say, have realistic expectations and not expect instant gratification from your practice. The best sort of advice I can give in this regard is really to think or to try and enjoy the journey and not to aim for an end goal. Again, going back to the gym analogy, and I don't know why I go back to these analogies because honestly, I'm just a scrawny guy. I don't really lift weights or anything. Maybe that's why I go back to it. But the point is that people who say, I'm going to go to the gym and become really fit and ripped, end up many times actually failing to do so. They don't end up bulking up. The people who really end up bulking up are those that end up really enjoying the entire experience of going to the gym. They like the atmosphere, they like how it makes them feel, they like the fact that last week they benched, 50 kilos, and this week they benched 55 kilos, so they feel like they've accomplished something. And they can even put a number of it on it, just like you can do with the BPM on the metronome. Maybe they have friends that go to the same gym. Who knows? I have no idea. But if they don't enjoy being in the gym itself, they're not going to really consistently keep on going and reach those gains. So you have to not expect instant gratification, and you have to learn to enjoy the journey. You have to learn to enjoy these small victories that you have along the way when you finish a difficult passage in a piece, or when uh, there are many, many small victories, and I highly suggest that you learn to enjoy them. And if you don't, it's honestly usually not going to work unless you're an extraordinarily driven person. That's it for this video. I hope I've given some food for thought for those of you who are starting out, and maybe even those who are already playing for a bit of time. And don't forget, I'll be back very soon with a list of several other mistakes that beginners make. That's it. I hope you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.